Have you ever opened your back door in the morning with a small scoop of seeds in your hand and noticed that one bird no longer flies away? Maybe it is a cardinal on the fence, still alert, watching you with one dark eye. You step outside. The door makes its usual sound. The feeder swings a little in the breeze, and for a second, everything pauses. That bird sees you. It knows you are there. It should disappear into the trees, but it doesn't. It only shifts its feet, turns its head, keeps watching, and stays. Most people explain this very simply. They just know I bring food. And yes, food matters. But that is not the whole story. Because wild birds do not survive by trusting easily. They survive by noticing. They remember patterns. They measure distance. They listen to familiar sounds. They watch how you move. And sometimes, long before you realize it, they have been studying you. So here is the real question. When did that bird stop seeing you as a threat? When did your footsteps become familiar? When did the sound of your door become part of the yard? And when did that tiny wild creature decide just for a moment that it did not need to run? That change does not happen in one morning. And it is not only because you bring seeds, it happens slowly, quietly, one calm visit at a time. And the most important part is this: once one bird learns that you are safe, the rest of the yard may begin watching too. So stay with me until the part where we talk about how one calm bird can change the behavior of the others, because that is when your backyard starts to look very different. And if you have ever seen a bird stay instead of fly away, comment just 2 words: it stayed. Subscribe for more quiet backyard mysteries like this, and share this with someone who loves watching the birds outside their window. Because when a wild bird stays, something has changed. A wild bird does not begin by trusting you. Even if you bring food, even if you come every morning, even if your feeder is full. Because a small bird cannot afford to be wrong. For a bird, the backyard is not just a peaceful place with trees, fences, and morning light. It is also a place full of possible danger. A cat can move under the bushes. A hawk can pass over the roof without a sound. A child can run suddenly across the grass. A stranger can step too close. A door can slam. A hand can move too fast. A shadow can fall the wrong way. To us, these things may seem small. To a bird, they can mean life or death. So when a bird stays on the fence while you step outside, that is not a casual moment. It is not simply being lazy. It is not ignoring you. And it is not thinking, this human is kind. A bird does not need to think about you that way. Its decision is more careful than that, more practical. It is asking something quieter. Has this human appeared before? Did they move the same way? Did they stop at the same place? Did they put the food down and step back? Did anything bad happen the last time they came? And the time before that? And the time before that? This is how trust begins in a bird's world. Not as a feeling, but as a pattern. One morning you open the door. Nothing happens. Another morning you step onto the porch. Nothing happens. Another morning you fill the feeder, turn away, and leave the yard quiet behind you. Again, nothing happens. Slowly, the bird begins to learn. Not that every human is safe, not that the world is gentle, but that this one repeated moment, this one sound, this one shape moving through the yard has not brought danger. That is why repetition matters so much. The same door, the same footsteps, the same calm movement, the same space given back to them. To you, it may feel like an ordinary routine, but to the birds watching from the hedge, the fence, and the branches, your routine is becoming information. And in the wild, information is survival. Birds do not trust kindness first, they trust patterns. And once your pattern becomes familiar, they begin to notice something even more specific. Not just that you come, but how you move when you arrive. To a bird, you are not just a person. You are a pattern. You are a sound, a movement, a shadow, a distance, a routine that appears again and again in the same small corner of the world. The back door opens. The hinge makes its quiet morning sound. The feeder rocks a little in the wind. Seeds fall into the tray with a soft, dry rattle. Your footsteps cross the porch, one step, then another. A bird in the hedge hears it before it sees you. A finch on the fence turns its head. A chickadee stops moving for half a second, not because they understand what you're thinking, but because they are learning what usually happens next. Maybe you always come out around the same time. Maybe you move slowly. Maybe you stop before you get too close. Maybe you pour the seeds, lower your hand, and step back. Maybe you do not stare at them for too long. Maybe you do not reach toward them. Maybe your body turns away before they feel trapped. These are small things to you. So small you may not even notice them. But birds notice small things for a living. A sudden arm movement, a fast step across the grass, a door closing too hard, a person walking straight toward the feeder, a face looking too directly for too long. In the human world, these may feel harmless. In the bird's world, they are signals. And over time, your signals begin to form a rhythm. The sound of the door, the weight of your footsteps, the angle of your body, the way you pause, the way you leave space, the way the yard becomes quiet again after you arrive. To you, it is just a morning routine. To them, it is information. And sometimes, that information arrives before the food does. That is why you may notice something strange. You have not even filled the feeder yet, but one bird is already waiting in the branch above it. You have only opened the door and something moves in the hedge. You have only stepped onto the porch, and the first brave bird is already watching the place where the seeds usually fall. It is not magic. It is memory. The birds are not only reacting to food, they are reacting to the pattern that comes before food. Your rhythm has become part of the yard, and once they begin to recognize that rhythm, the next question is even more important. How close will they let you come? At first, the bird may fly before you even step outside. The door opens, its wings flash, and it is gone. Not because you did anything wrong, but because in that first moment you are still unknown, too large, too close, too unpredictable. Then, after a few quiet mornings, something changes. You open the door and the bird waits. Only for a second, but it waits. You step onto the porch. It watches. You move toward the feeder. It lifts its body slightly, ready to leave. Then you stop. And for that one small moment, it does not fly. A week later, it may let you come a little farther. Not close. Not yet. But farther than before. Maybe it no longer disappears into the trees. Maybe it only hops to the fence. Maybe it moves from the grass to a low branch. Maybe it keeps one eye on you while pretending to look somewhere else. That is the quiet test happening in your yard. Not a dramatic test, not a friendly test, a distance test. Because a bird does not need words to tell you it is becoming less afraid. It tells you with space. It tells you by staying on the fence instead of fleeing to the oak tree. It tells you by moving one branch higher instead of vanishing completely. It tells you by letting you place the seeds down before it leaves. And one morning, it may not leave at all. You walk out slowly. The feeder is still empty. The bird sees your hand. It sees the scoop of seeds. It sees your body coming closer. Its feet tighten around the branch. Its head tilts. Everything in that tiny body is ready. Ready to fly. Ready to escape. Ready to choose safety over hunger. But then you stop at the same place you always stop. You lower your hand. You pour the seeds. You step back, and the bird stays. That moment may look small to us. But in the wild, small distances matter. One step can be too much. One sudden reach can erase weeks of patience. One quiet pause can make the whole yard feel different. This is why trust with birds cannot be forced. You cannot rush it. You cannot demand it. You cannot walk closer just because you want the moment to happen faster. The bird decides the distance, and every inch it gives you means something. Trust in a bird's world is measured in inches. And when one bird finally allows those inches, the most interesting part is that its decision may not stay with that bird alone. Watch what happens when the first brave bird stays. A chickadee lands on the feeder. It knows this yard. It knows the sound of the door. It knows the place where you usually stop. You step outside. The chickadee looks at you, but it does not fly away. In the hedge, a finch is watching. On the ground, a mourning dove freezes for a moment. Farther back, a cardinal stays hidden in the branches, turning its head just enough to see. They are not only watching you, they are watching each other. Because in a backyard, every bird is reading the room before it enters it. If one bird panics, the others notice. If wings explode from the feeder, the yard reacts. If a sharp warning call cuts through the morning, every small body becomes alert. But if the first bird stays calm, that means something too. The finch waits. The dove takes one careful step. The cardinal keeps watching. Nobody rushes in. Nobody trusts all at once. But the yard does not empty, and that is the beginning of a very quiet change. One bird stays. Another bird waits a little longer. Another bird moves from deep cover to a lower branch. Another bird lands near the feeder, but not too close. The whole yard begins to relax by inches. Not because every bird suddenly trusts you, but because they are using each other's behavior as information. The nervous bird may not learn from you first. It may learn from the braver bird. It sees that the chickadee did not flee. It sees that the feeder remained safe. It sees that you placed the food down and stepped back, and maybe tomorrow it comes a little closer. This is how confidence can spread through a backyard. Not loudly, not instantly, not like a signal everyone understands at once, but quietly. From one branch to another, from one cautious glance to the next. From one small decision to stay to another bird deciding not to leave so quickly. And if you watch carefully, you may begin to notice which bird is the first one to trust the morning. Maybe it is always the chickadee. Maybe it is a bold finch. Maybe it is one cardinal that appears before the others. That first bird matters, because the first bird that stays may become the reason the others dare to come closer. In a backyard, trust spreads quietly, and when spring arrives, that quiet lesson may be passed to the most nervous birds in the yard, the young ones seeing everything for the first time. In spring, the yard changes. The familiar adults are no longer alone. The chickadee that knew your footsteps in winter, the cardinal that watched you from the fence, the finch that learned to wait in the hedge, now begin arriving with young birds beside them. And those young birds do not know you yet. They do not know your routine. They do not know the sound of your door. They do not know that you usually stop at the same place. They do not know that your hand brings seeds and then moves away. To them, you are simply large, and in the world of a young bird, large things are usually dangerous. A leaf falling too fast can startle them. A squirrel jumping across a branch can send them into panic. A shadow moving over the grass can make them freeze. So when you step outside, the young bird reacts the way it was born to react. It stiffens. Its small feet grip the branch. Its head turns quickly. Its body leans toward escape. It does not know your history. It only knows that something much bigger has entered the yard. But then it looks at the parent, and the parent does not fly. The adult bird sees you. It watches. It stays on the branch. Maybe it gives one small call. Maybe it simply turns its head and goes back to feeding. And that changes the lesson. Because young birds learn the world by watching what older birds survive. They learn where to land. They learn which branches are safe. They learn when to hide. They learn when to follow. And sometimes they learn that not every large movement means danger. Not every opening door means panic. Not every human shape means the yard must empty. The young bird may still be nervous. It may still keep its distance. It may still jump at the smallest sound. But if the parent stays, it may stay a little longer too. If the parent returns tomorrow, it may return behind it. If nothing bad happens again and again, the young bird begins to add you to its own small map of the yard. Not as a friend, not as a pet, not as something tame, but as a familiar presence that has not brought harm. That is a quiet kind of trust, and it is easy to miss, because from your side of the yard, it may look like nothing more than a young bird sitting beside an adult bird near the feeder. But from their side, something is being learned. A new bird is watching an older bird remain calm. A nervous body is testing the world. A tiny life is discovering that this one part of the yard may be safer than it first appeared. And that means your consistency may reach farther than one bird. You do not become safe to one bird only. Sometimes you become safe to the next generation watching from the branch beside it. Sometimes trust is inherited from the branch beside you. But this kind of trust is fragile, and the way you behave in the yard can either strengthen it or break it very quickly. The fastest way to earn a bird's trust is not to get closer. It is to stop demanding closeness. Because birds do not only remember who brings food, they remember how that person arrives, how that person moves, how much space that person gives back. A feeder can bring birds into your yard, but your behavior decides whether they feel safe enough to stay. If you move too quickly, they notice. If you walk straight toward them, they notice. If you reach out your hand because you want a closer moment, they notice. If you stare too long, chase them for a better view, or try to make them trust you faster, they notice that too. And for a small bird, pressure feels like danger. This is why the safest thing you can do is often the quietest thing. Move slowly. Keep your movements simple. Do not rush toward the feeder when birds are nearby. Do not try to touch them. Do not follow them when they move away. Put the food down and step back. Let the birds decide the distance. Let them come when they are ready. Let them leave without feeling trapped. That may not feel like much, but in the bird's world it matters. Because every calm visit becomes part of the pattern. Every time you stop at the same place, they learn that you have a boundary. Every time you lower your hand and step away, they learn that your hand is not chasing them. Every time the yard becomes quiet after you arrive, they learn that your presence does not take control from them. And there is one more thing that helps even more than people realize: cover. A bird is much more likely to trust a yard if it has somewhere to escape. A hedge, a small tree, a fence line, a thick bush, an evergreen, a low branch near the feeder. Open space may look clean to us, but to a nervous bird, open space can feel exposed. A safe yard is not just a yard with food. It is a yard with choices, a place to land, a place to watch, a place to retreat, a place to try again tomorrow. So if you want birds to trust your yard, do not only think about what you are offering them. Think about how they experience the space. Can they see danger coming? Can they reach cover quickly? Can they eat without feeling trapped? Can they watch you from a safe distance before deciding what to do? This is where trust becomes practical. Not dramatic, not instant, not forced, just slow, respectful, repeated safety. You do not make birds trust you by reaching for them. You make trust possible by giving them room to choose. The safest human in a bird's world is often the one who does not insist on being close. And when you finally see a bird stay, after days or weeks of giving it space, that small moment means more than it first appears. So the next time you open the back door and the birds do not scatter, do not rush past that moment. Pause for a second. Look at the fence. Look at the low branch. Look at the feeder. Look at the one bird that sees you and stays. Maybe it is a cardinal. Maybe a chickadee. Maybe a mourning dove standing quietly beneath the feeder. Maybe a robin in the grass, still watching you, but no longer running from every step. That moment may look ordinary. It may look like nothing has happened, but something has happened. A wild creature has measured the space between you. It has remembered your rhythm. It has watched the way you arrive. It has seen that you give it room. It has learned slowly that your presence does not always mean danger. And in a world where small birds must be careful about everything that is not a small thing, because birds do not give trust all at once, they give it quietly. A few inches at a time. A few seconds longer on the fence, one less panic flight into the trees, one more morning where they stay close enough to watch. And maybe that is what makes backyard birds so beautiful. They remind us that trust is not always loud. Sometimes it is just a tiny body on a branch choosing not to leave. Sometimes it is a young bird watching an older bird remain calm. Sometimes it is a whole yard slowly relaxing because nothing bad happened again. And sometimes it is simply this: you step outside, the bird sees you, and it stays. So the next time that happens, notice it. Not as proof that the bird is tame, not as something you own, but as a small sign that your quiet consistency has become part of its world. A bird that stays is giving you something very small and very rare, because in the wild, staying is never meaningless. If you have ever noticed one bird in your yard slowly becoming less afraid of you, tell me what species it was. Was it a chickadee, a cardinal, a dove, a robin, or one quiet bird that simply decided to stay? Comment 2 words below. It stayed. Subscribe for more quiet backyard mysteries like this. And share this with someone who loves watching the birds outside their window. Because once you understand what staying means, your backyard will never look quite the same again.